Hello everybody and welcome to episode 4 of Talkin Ranbu. Today, Alan couldn't make it because he's having some problems with his Audacity, so instead I've brought on a special guest, being Cam.
Hello. Our running gag today, continues. Cam? I'm very good, thank you very much. I'm excited because of what we're here to talk about today.
Oh, it's very, very exciting stuff. So today's episode is going to be a little bit different to the usual, because we usually do like Sword of the Day and Alan's Tip of the Day. Obviously we can't do that because Alan's not here, but today we will...
Cam's Tip of the Day.
What's Cam's Tip of the Day?
Keep your eyes open for the anime. So I'm totally awake.
It's great. We had a late night last night.
Yeah, we did.
Everyone did. So today, obviously, as you can tell from the title and the hype that has been around Touken Ranbu for the past few days, we are going to be talking about the 2 new Touken Ranbu anime that have been announced over the past weekend at Anime Japan.
How exciting!
Oh, how exciting this is. So,
what a time to be alive.
I know, it's a great time. Right, to be honest, we'll just talk about what we expected from, like, an announcement, because I think both of us were in the position where we always expected an announcement, but we just didn't know when it was gonna come.
I think it was something that we always kind of joked about. Like, we always thought, oh, well, you know, Touken Ranbu will inevitably get an anime. It's only a matter of time. But I think it's one of those things, like I say, we joked about it, but I don't think any of us really knew if or when it was going to happen. It's just one of those odd things.
I had a good suspicion that it would happen eventually because, like, when I was in Japan, you couldn't move for Touken Ranbu stuff. It was like, oh, I'm going to go to this 7-Eleven. Oh, they're selling clear files of Touken Ranbu characters in 7-Eleven.
I guess it's just
like,
one of those things,
so
like,
massively popular.
Yeah, we all knew it was coming.
Stupid if they didn't.
Yeah, it's like we all knew it was coming, but it still came as a surprise when they actually announced it, to the point where you didn't believe it for a while.
Yeah, because you retweeted the, like, picture of the banner, and I was like, no.
No,
that
mate.
Can't be real.
I need to wait for confirmation.
It was the thing where it was like, oh, it's going to be by Ufotable. I was like, no, that's not real. That's not real.
Nah, mate.
There's no way that that's real. But I guess we'll talk about the first anime that we'll be releasing, which will be in October of this year, and it will be called Touken Ranbu Hanamaru, or... I don't know what that translates to. I don't know why I was trying to do that.
All I recognise it from is Hanamaru Kindergarten.
Yep. Hanamaru Kindergarten. Touken Ranbu Hanamaru Kindergarten.
Yeah, man.
So this is this isn't by Ufotable. We'll talk about that one later. So this one is by Dogokobo, is the studio who have been involved in projects like Gekkan Shoujo no Zaki-kun and Himoto Umaru-chan. As much as I hate Umaru-chan, it was popular, so whatever. The director was the co-director of Luck and Logic, and they've been involved in the animation direction of things like Selector Infected Whitcross. The character designs being done by Junichiro Taniguchi, who did the anime designs for Natsuyuki Rendezvous and Prison School. The series writer is going to be Pierre Sugiura, who did Barakamon and is working on Kumamiko, which is coming out very shortly, I believe. And the only confirmed cast members for this anime are Mitsuhiro Ichiko and Toshiki Masuda, who voice Yamato no Kami and Kashu, obviously, as they were the prominent images on the announcement picture.
Yes. I think the main thing that we need to that we should probably address first is the fact that we were all really surprised by the fact that Touken Ranbu anime got announced. What was your reaction to the fact that it wasn't just one, it was 2 shows that were announced at the same time?
I didn't think it was an anime. Like, I thought, oh, they're releasing like a like a
It's a drama CD.
manga or something. Like, I thought it was gonna be like a side thing that just came out about the same time as the anime. Which it kind of is. It's just an anime that's coming out before the other anime, which is kind of surprising. But I said this in a call last night. I feel like with this, if they do what I think they're going to do, which is have this be sort of like a slice of life comedy series.
Considering what Doga Kobo are known for, that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, exactly.
They deal a lot in slice of life.
Yeah, and the director has done Barakamon, and Kumamiko, the writer, has done Barakamon, which is like so slice of life it's unreal. But my feelings on this is they get to have the best of both worlds, because a lot of people like to imagine, like, there's doujins about it, like, oh, here are the swords hanging around the citadel doing funny stuff. And with the Kantai Collection anime, as a comparison, they tried to have that stuff that was, like, interlaced with this really, really serious stuff, and the tone was sort of a bit all over the place, in my personal opinion.
I think I
I
agree with you.
Yeah, with Touken Ranbu, if they separate that into two separate series, you've got two chances of doing different takes on the world, because I think the Ufotable series is going to be way different.
Yeah,
but we'll talk about that in a bit.
You get the opportunity to, with two series, you get the opportunity to look at like two different sets of characters as well. Like, there's more opportunity to include more characters. Like, if your favourite sword doesn't turn up in Hanamaru, then maybe it'll turn up in the Ufotable one.
Yeah.
You know, so there's more scope, and also within those storylines, there's more opportunity for development and stuff as well. Like, when we did the Oko Anime Club on Kantai Collection, the main criticism that I had, while I really enjoyed the show, my criticism was it was a little bit shallow, excuse the pun. It didn't really do much to permeate the surface of who characters were or the events that were going on. There were a lot of interesting references to the history and stuff, so on that level it was quite good. But as far as character development and story, it kind of missed the mark, I feel. And like you say, there was a bit of a dichotomy. It's like, do you want to be a slice of life? Do you want to be a serious drama? You're kind of flip-flopping between the two, and it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. And I feel like doing two separate anime, which are going to be completely different in tone by the looks of things, is a really, really good way to combat that issue.
Yeah, well, based on the key visuals alone, that gives that exact impression. You've got Kashu and Yamato no Kami on each other's on opposite sides of the thing. It looks all very kind of shiny and happy-go-lucky. You got Yamato no Kami who's like doing his hair up and he's got a big smile on his face.
Yeah.
And then you've got Munechika being a badass in the nighttime with sakura petals, which is awesome.
It's just like so obvious that these two are going to be completely different, and I feel like they will be completely separate as well.
Yes.
Like, I don't feel like you're going to have to watch Hanamaru to get anything out of the 2017 series. I feel that this is going to be completely separate to the 2017 series, and that's good, because there are a lot of people, like you, Cam, who don't really like slice of life.
I will watch this regardless. Like, I've got to. It's Touken Ranbu.
I feel like you'll get something out of this anyway, because it's Touken Ranbu, and you'll get to see all these characters that you like doing funny stuff, and you already have that attachment to them.
Exactly. I mean, even if it's just on a base level of, oh, I know that guy. Or, oh, there's them doing a funny thing. Like, this may be the one opportunity for a slice of life show to actually entertain me.
I think it's a good opportunity. But I'm not... I'll say I am looking forward to Hanamaru, but my main intrigue is with the second series.
Yes, mine too. And it really depends on where they go with it. Like, we've had this conversation about 3 times in the past. In fact, I think we had this conversation in the episode of Oko about Kantai Collection. But we can do that again. I'll go through my thoughts when we talk about that in more detail, which I assume will be fairly soon.
Yeah,
like
I don't think this is going to be like a very long episode. I
No.
just wanted to get it out before Kitakon, so it's fine.
Oh, exactly, yeah. But my thoughts on this are very similar to yours. I think it's going to be a slice of life show. It's going to be pretty much geared towards basically life in the Citadel, rather than going out onto the front lines and stuff. Maybe some expedition-based stuff. I doubt it's going to be heavily combat-focused. So it's probably
going to be a lot of horses there. There's going to be a lot of horse keeping.
This is the thing. It's going to be based on interactions. Kind of. It's like when you do internal affairs in the Citadel when you're playing Touken Ranbu. It's going to be stuff like that. So maybe it's going to be a little bit of sparring. Maybe it's going to be some horse, mucking out the horses, and the other stuff that they do. I don't do internal affairs very often, so I don't remember them all.
Sparring, horsekeeping, and field work.
Oh, okay. So that stuff will be involved, and then it'll just be like random interactions. Maybe someone will be doing the washing. I don't know.
Like we said, we should Taratati should always be in the background, hitting his head on stuff.
Just
too tall.
Either that or just like his head's been cut out of the shot because he's too tall.
Like I want it to be funny, but I also want it to appeal to people who don't play Touken Ranbu at the same time, because I have a lot of friends who are like, I don't get why you like Touken Ranbu so much, and I'm like, but the characters are like the best part
I think it will
they have such interesting histories and stuff, and I really want people to get invested in that.
Yeah. I think the problem is it's kind of hard to permeate the surface of Touken Ranbu at the moment, because it's like when we first got into it, it was still very kind of, I wouldn't say it was underground, but it was very new. And so we got into it at kind of a good point, I think, whereas now it's absolutely everywhere. It's impossible to escape from it. And I think that kind of puts a lot of people off, because it's, like I say, it's hard to permeate the surface. It's not difficult to get into, but it's difficult to know how to get into the game, because obviously everything's in moon runes, i.e. Japanese. So, yeah, like, it took me a great deal to actually get into the game in the first place. And I think that may put people off, because I know that when people go on and on and on and on and on at me about stuff that I'm not entirely sure about, I don't know much about, it puts me off. I mean, case in point was One Punch Man. Like, that, everyone was like, Cam, this show has literally been written for you, but because I've been beaten over the head with it, I didn't want to watch it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to read it, and it wasn't until I was able to sit down and go, right, I am now ready to absorb this piece of media, that I got a lot out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm hoping that Hanamaru will be a good starting point for people, and maybe go, oh, I like these characters, their designs are cool, and they have quirky personalities. I want to kind of get to know them more within their actual source material, and then they'll go and find out how to play the game, and then they'll start playing the game, and then they will they'll cry like us when we can't get the swords we want.
Chuzamaru. But I feel like it's going to work. Although it's going to be like a completely separate series, I feel like it's going to work quite well in conjunction with the other series as well.
Yes.
Because it's going to be a good chance for us to get to know them as characters, only then for Ufotable to take them and probably kill them.
Yes.
Because we'll move on to like the Ufotable one now, because I think this is going to be the meat of the discussion, because this is the bigger one.
Yes. Even
though there's like no staff announced or whatever, but I have a lot to say about this. I feel like swords are going to die, and Cashew is my main worry. I feel like people are going to get way attached to Cashew in the first series, and then he's going to like break in the second series
just gonna
or
kill
something.
First episode. They're just going to kill him.
Can you imagine? Because it makes sense for Cashew, because his sword broke in history, actually broke. Hotarumaru isn't safe.
Hotarumaru isn't safe at all, no. It depends on, because obviously Hotarumaru's fate is undetermined, so it might be that he just disappears. It depends on how far they actually want to go into the history and how they present it. Because I've got an idea of if I was writing a Touken Ranbu anime, I know how I would do it.
How would you do it? Because I'm interested in what you expect or would want from a Touken Ranbu anime.
So I feel like, I mean, this is what Ufotable will do, and it's going to be an expansion on the basic premise of Touken Ranbu, which is what I understand the premise of Touken Ranbu to be. Is it's about time travel in that you've got these guys called the historical revisionists that are going back in time and trying to alter events to suit their own purposes.
Yeah.
And all these events happen to be in feudal Japan for some reason. And the main character will be a Sanawa sage, and I hope to Christ that they actually make a character to be the Sanawa sage. Because
me too.
Like, I understand that like the Admiral and the Sanawa are supposed to be self-inserts, but I feel like
I don't feel like Touken Ranbu works without one.
No,
because
exactly.
There needs to be someone there to like give the swords life in the first place.
Well, exactly. That's the purpose of the Sanawa, isn't it? They go back in time and they give the swords life. And I feel like what would be interesting is if the series isn't. Let me think. How I would do it in a way that makes sense and explains the history of these swords is if it's not one ongoing story. It would be a set of smaller stories that would be set in certain time periods, because the different worlds in Touken Ranbu are all different time periods, and that's why you get recollections between certain swords, because they're swords that existed in that time.
Yeah.
So it would be like an arc would be set in that time period where the Sanawa meets these swords that existed at that time and deal with whatever the historical revisionists are trying to do in that time period. And it would go forward like that. And then maybe it would end on something to do with the Kebishi, because I should probably look this up properly, but what I understand the Kebishi to be is a spectral force that is against both the revisionists and the Sanawa. Like, their job is to maintain, like, the flow of time, or whatever. So they come in and just try to eradicate all external forces.
Okay.
I need to double check that. I'm going to do that now, actually, while we're chatting.
Alright,
So I almost feel like the Kebishi is going to turn up at the end, and then it's going to be
I feel like the Kebishi will be a big deal.
Yeah, and it's going to be like, we've got to deal with the Kebishi, oh!
Maybe if, this is all speculation, by the way, but maybe if, the Sanawa could bring all the swords into that one time where it was like an all-out battle against the Kebishi, that would be cool.
Yeah.
Because that's the other thing, like, would the swords go through time with the Sanawa? Or...
I wonder if they were going to have it so they have, like, a character that they want to develop a lot, you could, I mean, look at the key visual. Maybe the first sword that the Sanawa comes across is Munachika, and Munachika comes with them. So you always have at least...
I'm almost positive that Munachika is going to be a main character. Like, he's going to be a staple character because he's the poster boy.
Yeah, so I think that's probably the way that I would do it, is have it so there's at least one sword that follows along, or you could have it so you build up a squad, so by the time you get to the final arc, Sanawa's got a team of swords.
Yeah. Oh, that would be cool. That would be cool. I agree with you that the Sanawa should definitely be a character.
Yes.
The thing I am mildly curious about is what gender they will go with for the Sanawa. Because I can't help but feel it would be a little bit reverse harem-y if it was a girl. And I know Ufotable aren't known for doing reverse harems. I don't think they've ever done a harem in their entire career. But you know what I mean. Where the Sanawa would be a self-insert character to a degree, surrounded by all these like boys that people will try and say, oh, but look at this. This means that they're in love with her. And even though I love reverse harems, that's not really what I want from a Touken Ranbu anime at all. Because there are so many other things that would suit that genre better.
Yeah, I think that I don't think they could have it any other way though. I feel like the Sanawa has to be female.
Yeah, for sure.
If anything, just for the sake of gender balance, because if the Sanawa isn't a female, then there will literally be no women.
That's very true.
In the principal cast, apart from, you could argue, Midare. Because he wears a skirt.
I'm happy to go with idea of
that's the idea that I had, and I've read it somewhere. I just can't remember where.
It might be a theory rather than like a concrete thing.
Possibly,
but I don't know what the translations are when a Kebishi appears in a map. So
exactly, that's what I was trying to find. But I mean, it would make sense, wouldn't it? Like after you've done so much in a map and you've fought with the revisionists for so long, eventually the Kebishi turns up because it gets fed up with you mucking around with time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But as I imagine it would be a dangerous force rather than being like, I must preserve the timeline. It's more like it's going to be, I'm going to destroy everything.
It's going to be... Oh god, talking about it is making me really excited. No.
What about...
I'm trying not to get my hopes up too much, but I think regardless of how it turns out, I'll love it.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think it's going to be very difficult for us to be disappointed by this series.
Yeah. But the one thing that I actually really do want from this series is I do want swords to break. And I know that sounds really awful, but I feel like them going into Awakening and swords breaking and things like that are very important things to the game's mechanics.
Yes. Even if it is extremely difficult to break a sword.
Yeah, but sorry, what was I saying? If they did make swords break in the anime, it would make it a lot more feelsy.
Yeah.
And that's what I want in a way. I don't want it to be like a romance. I want it to be a bit more like Fate Stay Night, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good because, you know, they made Fate Stay Night, Unlimited Blade Works, and Fate Zero and stuff, and yeah. But talking about Ufotable, what did you think when you found out that Ufotable were making this series?
I was just like, fantastic.
I didn't believe it.
I know, I was a bit...
believe it.
I was a bit shocked, but at the same time I was like, this pretty much guarantees that it's going to, at the very least, look amazing.
Yeah. I honestly think that the key visual that they've released so far looks amazing. I think it looks so good.
Knowing what I know about Ufotable in my experience, I reckon the storyline is going to be a little bit convoluted, a little bit hard to follow, but it'll look awesome. And that's all I really care about, to be honest.
Yeah.
As long as the story is interesting enough for me to want to get involved with it and pick it apart.
Yeah.
And it'll be historically relevant as well. Like, everything will be set in the history of these swords. Everything they do will probably be related to where they come from.
Yeah, which is why, sneak announcement for those of you who are actually listening to this, the sword history videos will be coming back April, because the idea with sword history was I wanted to give players information about these swords that they might not have known, but it's also like a killing two birds with one stone in a way, because I wanted to inform people who might not care about the game to know the history of these swords, so when they go into the anime, if there are any like little Easter eggs, they might be able to pick up on them a little bit easier. Because the one thing I noticed with Kantai Collection is when we were talking about it with John, who's a big like Japanese naval history buff, when he was telling us about stuff, I was like, that's really interesting, and that would have been really, really cool to pick up on had I known any of that stuff, but I didn't. So that was the idea of the sword history videos, was I wanted to inform people about, you know, the base history of these swords so that they can pick up on like cool little details if an anime ever happened, which it is. So now I've got to rush many videos to get it out before October.
I've found a Wikipedia page about Kebishi, but it's in German. So how do I make you not German?
Oh, actually, going back to Ufotable for a second though. I'm very, very happy that they are doing it, because they are quite well known for their action.
Yes.
And I don't think I was anticipating a lot of action from a Touken Ranbu series, because I kind of assumed it would go to a low-budget studio who, you know, would do more of the slice of life stuff than the action stuff. That's what I always assumed. And then instead of going to a really low-budget studio, it went to probably the studio that has the highest production costs in the anime industry right now. So it's gonna have like some fantastic action scenes. Like if you've ever seen anything that they've done, that's what they're well known for, like how their visuals are and how the action plays out.
If you want to get an idea of what they're capable of, I advise watching episode 0 of Unlimited Blade Works. You can watch it on Crunchyroll. It's like 40 minutes long. Even if you're not interested in watching anything to do with Fate Stay Night, it just is a perfect example of the level of quality action that Ufotable are capable of. Because the initial fight between Archer and Lancer is insane.
It's so good. Like episode 0 might be my favourite thing
it's really
from
good.
Fate Stay Night.
So
very, very good.
I've run this Wikipedia article through Google Translate because it doesn't seem to exist on English Wikipedia.
Right.
Apparently, from what I can gather from this garbled translation, is the Kebishi was... Let's have a look. It loosely translates to Commissioner for Investigating Illegalities.
Okay.
Basically, they were like a police and judiciary force that were founded in the Heian period, and basically their job was to maintain public order, like public and civil order. And so yeah, based on that alone, obviously, the things that you fight in the game aren't just cops; they are monsters. So I assume it's just based on that. But based on that description alone, it seems like they are a force which is geared towards maintaining order. So that would
what you said earlier would make a lot of sense.
Sort of makes sense, yeah. If anyone knows what the translations are for like when the Kebishi turns up and when you fight them and stuff, please can you like drop it in the comments or let us know where we can find it, because I'm really interested to know what the actual translation of that stuff is, because I'm struggling to find it anywhere else.
That would be great if people would do that, because I'm interested to know. I want to know more about this anime than I should, apparently. But the thing with the 2017 adaptation is it doesn't have a month, it doesn't have a season, it doesn't have like any staff. We don't know anything about who's going to be in it. It's really like a relatively unknown thing, so this is all speculation. I want to point that out again.
Oh yeah.
But I sort of hope for what you said earlier when you were saying, oh, if I was going to make a Touken Ranbu anime, I want the Sanwa to be a character, I want swords to break, and I like the idea of them going through different periods of time and going through all the maps and stuff. That sounds like a really, really cool idea.
Yeah. Or even if they just focus on one. Like, even if they just focus on the first one. I can't remember which era the first one is and what that would entail. But
I can check.
It depends on how much they want to cover and how long the series is going to be. Like, if it's only going to be 12 episodes, maybe they should only focus on one era, or maybe one or two. And then that always opens it up for more sequels. I doubt they're going to run all the way into World 6 from nowhere.
It just stops in World 6.
Yeah.
I don't know what map 1 is based off of, because this Wikipedia page is not fun. The only thing that I know for sure is that World 6 is based on the Ikadaya incident, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. So, World 1, interesting. World 1 is the Meiji Restoration.
Oh, okay.
So, the introduction is nearing the end of the Boshin War at Hakodate. A series of conflicts broke out at Kyoto's Toba. During the time, the stage for battle was set at Tsunomiya, with its Nikko route vital to the shogunate and Aizu, the stronghold of the Aizu domain. So basically, it's like a conflict revolving around the Meiji Restoration, which was quite an interesting time, because that was when basically samurai weren't allowed to carry swords out in the open anymore, and stuff like that. It's when the Shinsengumi were a big thing, and
right.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. I mean, my knowledge of the Meiji Restoration comes from Rurouni Kenshin, because that's set in the Meiji Restoration period. But yeah, it's that would be an interesting time to set it, and I guess it just depends on who exists within that period. It doesn't really give any time frames or anything. There's some recollections in here. So we've got a recollection between... we've got loads! So we've got Cashew and Izumi no Kami, which makes sense. We've got Yamato no Kami, and then we've got Izumi no Kami and Horikawa. Again, makes sense because they both they're both involved with the Shinsengumi. We've got Tarotachi and Jirotachi.
Yes.
Ogatine and Dotanuki.
Okay.
Otagine, yeah, and then we've got Ichigo and Namazuo.
That makes sense.
Yamanbagari and Yamanbushi, or Yamabushi.
That also makes sense.
Soza and Kosetsu.
Yep.
Imonosurugi and Iwatoshi. Hang on, I'm jumping way too far forward. These aren't all in different parts. I apologise.
Let's just list all the recollections.
In part 1, so in area 1 in the Meiji Restoration, it's Cashew, Yamato no Kami, Izumi no Kami, and Horikawa.
Okay.
I was literally listing all the recollections.
There's so much we could speculate about in terms of what it's going to be and who's going to be prominent and stuff. And I'm assuming you're hoping to see Urashima.
It'd be cool if Urashima turned up, like Urashima and Nagasone. I don't know if they will. It depends on how they do it, because obviously they're technically like special swords that only turned up after the game's release. Like, it wasn't long after the game's release that they were implemented. But
yeah, they were like some of the first introductories.
They were the first
swords to be introduced.
Yeah, after release. So I guess it depends, and it depends on whether they decide to connect them with the Kebishi or not. Because of course, I mean, they're not connected with the Kebishi anymore. As of like the latest update, they can just be smithed normally. I don't know whether they drop anywhere. I know that they can definitely be smithed, because I smithed one while trying to get Jizumaru. But yeah, I don't know. It'll be an interesting thing to see. Again, it depends on whether the Kebishi will be involved or not, but it seems like the Kebishi is the primary antagonist. Because I know that when you beat World 6, it's mentioned quite a lot. But again, I can't find or remember the actual information. Oh, here we go. Right. So after you beat 6-4, the last thing, the last screen that you get says, "The enemy has been defeated. Any remnants left in this era will no doubt soon be devoured by the Kebishi." So I think that further solidifies my idea. That's what I saw.
So then you like hop out of that time before the Kebishi can.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh man.
Oh, that would make sense. That makes sense why it takes like 10 boss battles for the Kebishi to turn up. It appears if you spend too long in one period.
Right, okay. This is making so much more sense now.
Maybe it's chasing after you, because like you're an anomaly.
That's true.
That's cool. Oh man, we should write this. Maybe they haven't announced anyone yet, because they're like, oh, those guys in the Touken Ranbu podcast, we'll get them in.
Yeah, man. Let's go to Ufotable. I can't speak any Japanese, but I can try.
I like Touken Ranbu.
Touken Ranbu.
Skida.
Hajimaru. Just stop.
You're hired. You're hired. Hired des.
Hired des. But yeah, I really like that idea actually of the Kebishi being something that doesn't appear until much later. But I kind of wonder how many episodes it's going to be, or if it's just going to be like... It's obviously the first season of it is going to be 12 episodes. But I wonder if they'll do like a UBW where they take a break for a bit and then do another season that's linked to it.
Considering that's pretty much Ufotable's calling card, as it were, now.
Well,
they split it into two they do a season, they take a season's break, and then they do another season. And it seems to have worked really well for them. It must be something to do with the way they budget.
I think they just like to take their time with like the animation and not rush it, because all of their anime just looks superb.
Exactly. I mean, it makes sense because you do half the series, and then you can start to use the revenue from that half a series to help develop the second one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I don't know how the production process works, but that sounds logical in my head. It just means that we have to wait.
They would already be in pre-production by the time the first series aired.
Oh,
It
yeah,
was
yeah.
airing, I believe, for the second half. But it just depends on, I think, two factors. Because I have no doubt in my mind that Touken Ranbu is popular enough for them to at least consider doing multiple series. Because they are going to make so much bank, it's going to be unreal.
It depends on the... Because there's plenty of material there. Like, there is so
loads.
much material. So they could easily spin it out into 2, 3, 4, maybe even more series. Like I said, they could even do... They could technically, if they wanted to, do a series per world, which on its own is 6 seasons worth of stuff. And I reckon they could fill it as well.
It would be cool if they did something like that, but I don't know if they'll go that far. I agree with you that it would be cool.
There's, that theory about... this is something else that's just popped into my head. You know that theory about Akashi?
Yeah.
And how the theory is that Akashi is working with the historical revisionists because he wants to find Aizen or something?
Right, so the theory is that Akashi wants to work with the enemies that are in 6-2, because the enemies that are in 6-2 are in cahoots, with the enemies in World 6-1, and the enemies in World 6-1 want to stop the Pacific War from happening, which was a war that happened during World War II and ended with Japan losing and an act being put into place called the Weapons Confiscation Act, where Hotarumaru was then taken away and confiscated and probably got destroyed in the end.
Probably destroyed, yeah. So he's trying to protect Hotarumaru, basically.
Yeah. So his whole thing is, he's like, oh, I don't want to work. Oh, unless you're talking about Hotarumaru, in which case I'll work for him.
Yeah.
If that would be interesting if they...
If that is
put
true,
that in somehow.
That raises some very interesting points. The first of which being... Because, my theory on... Because the historical revisionists, I reckon, are also Sanoa sages. Or if they're not Sanoa sages, they have the same power. That they can turn regular weapons into fighters. But things like the normal enemies we see, so like the snakes, which are the Tantos, the weird spider guys, which are the Wakizashis, they're just like normal weapons. They're just like random things that they found, and they just transform them to turn into goons. But they can transform swords with names into their actual personification. So what would be interesting is if we get guys on opposite sides.
What would be really cool is if they did a storyline between Hotarumaru and Akashi, and can you imagine that moment where Akashi sees Hotarumaru and he's like, "It's you, you're here. Why are you here?" And then it would be like brotherly, guardian, parental reunite.
Or knowing UFO table, it'll be Hotarumaru knows that the historical revisionists have to be stopped, and ends up having to fight Akashi because Akashi won't allow him to do it.
Oh god, it's gonna be sad either way if they do something like that.
Exactly.
They have so much potential for making really interesting stories like that. Like I said, that's just a theory, but it makes a lot of sense with the fact that Akashi is found in a game theory.
It makes sense,
but it makes a lot of sense with Akashi being found in 6-2. So
yeah, and it's a really interesting story as well. And like you're saying, it presents the idea that a sword could work for either side, or a sword kind of has its own will apart from just what you tell them to do. The Sanoa gives them life, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they will help you. Oh god, I want all of these things that we're saying to be put into the anime, and if it's not, I'm going to be either happen now.
Okay, I'm glad that they did this, or it's going to be like, no, they didn't do the Akashi Hotarumaru storyline.
We're gonna have to wait 5 seasons for the Akashi Hotarumaru storyline.
It's so interesting to think about what they're going to do, because I've never been in the position where I've known or I've spent so much time with the source material before it's gotten an anime.
Yes.
I've never had that happen before. I've read manga that have had adaptations and whatever, but I've never been so invested in something prior to its anime adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's definitely going to be very interesting. And Ufotable are going to make so much money if this ends up being a decent adaptation, because, you know, if it ends up being good, I'll probably end up buying the Blu-rays from Japan for £3 million. So.
Yeah. Like, Ufotable don't muck about. Like, I have every faith that no matter what they do, they will produce a good story. Like, the visuals are a no-brainer. It's going to look amazing no matter what. But I have it on good faith that it will be well written and well directed. It just depends on how they do it.
Like, the more that we see about this, the more I'm going to be... we're going to bring it up in podcasts in the future. And we're going to talk about it, and we're going to be very excited about it. And I'm sure when the anime launches, we'll do episodes about it then. It's going to be a very big time for people who are into Talkin Ranbu, and our community is about to get a whole lot bigger.
Oh, yes.
I'll say that much.
Your How to Play Touken Ranbu video is probably going to get a lot more views.
We'll see how it goes. So currently, as the anime has just been announced, it's at 41,000. So we'll see how that goes by the time the anime launches. You
should make a short, like, addendum video talking about how to actually get into the game. I can't remember if you put that in the How to Play video.
We put, like, links to the wiki, like, use this cookie enabler thing that makes it think you're in Japan for some reason.
Shh! We can't let Ufotable hear that. They'll tell DMM and we'll get banned.
Ufotable, stop listening. But, yeah, I don't think I've got much more to say about it because we know so little about it, but I honestly have really high hopes for it, but I'm going to try and calm myself down now that we've done this podcast because I don't want to be, like, anticipating it until 2017 because it's only just 2016. So
you don't want to set your expectations too high because otherwise you're just going to be disappointed regardless. They could do exactly what we asked for and you'll be like, oh.
Yeah, that's true.
Great.
So now that we've done this podcast about the anime, we probably won't talk about it again until, like, new PVs drop and
we get new information.
The series is actually released and stuff because we're not going to be waiting that long until Hanamaru. So
how are we gonna deal with these series on like a podcast basis?
I don't know, to be honest, because if anyone's got any suggestions, then do feel free to let us know. But I would like to talk about it as often as possible because
weekly episode reaction podcasts.
We should watch the episodes together. I think that should be a thing. We should get
cool.
Emily in on there, and we should all watch it together. And it's going to be great.
That would be awesome. I would enjoy that.
But yeah, I think that's about everything for this
I don't
episode.
think we're just gonna be talking in circles otherwise.
So
I'm very excited, very very excited. What do you like? Too. Again, I asked for like translations and stuff in the comments. You guys should also let us know what you think should be in both Hanamaru and in the Ufotable adaptation. Just like, what do you want to see, and what do you think about our suggestions? Like, would you make any changes?
You summed up, for me personally, exactly what I would like to see in the Ufotable adaptation. Because I know Hanamaru is just going to be like, oh, let's be ditzy and stuff, so it's going to be fine. But yeah, if you have any thoughts about the anime, please let us know, because I'm very, very interested. And like I said, this was a special episode because we have an anime announced. So next episode we will be returning to Sword of the Day, Alan's Tip of the Day, any in-game news that's happened, because there has been a fair amount. That will be covered in the next
recent
episode.
Event revolving around Juzumaru and all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to be
salty the entire time.
You are going to be the saltstress. It's probably a good thing that we didn't talk about it this episode, because
that was one of the reasons. I was like, I don't want to get salty about Juzumaru, so can we just talk about the anime instead?
Yeah.
But everything will return to regular service when we are back, whenever that is, because I have to edit this in a day so we can get it up before Kitacon. So, I'm excited.
Oh, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be a good laugh.
It's gonna be absolutely great. I can't wait. So, with that, we will see you guys in the next episode.
Bye-bye. I won't, because I'm just a guest, but we all know that I probably will be.
The regular guest, Cam.
LOL! Best joke ever.